Hello, it's time for Dermatology and Drag again, and this week I'm going to do my favorite topic of all, hair, alright? I do have a PhD in hair, literally, okay? And today I'm going to talk about hair, basics of hair, some hair diseases, while I turn myself into a Nino Bonita Brown Minnie Mouse, but instead of ears, I'll make it out of hair, alright? And I am wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt, but you can't see it. Alright, so if that's something you want to see, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and ring that bell for post notifications. Alright, let's get going. Alright, I'm back and the brows are gone. This is actually going to be the first part of a 3-part series on hair. I was wondering how to do hair stuff, okay? I got in a little bit of trouble doing vitiligo, so initially I wanted to do, a whole bunch of alopecia videos and to practice a bald cap, but that might have got me into a little bit of trouble, so I'm going to do it this way instead. Alright, so today I'm going to do my Minnie Mouse look, and I'm just going to go in straight with my foundation. Ran out of my soft beige, and they ran out of this on Amazon as well, so now I've got soft peach. Let's try this. It's more of a neutral cream blend stick, but oh, I forgot to prime again. Alright, so isn't hair the most amazing thing? Have you ever wondered why humans just have hairs on their heads and other animals such as mice, cats, rabbits all have fur, very short hairs? The reason for that is because of the hair cycle, okay? Your hair actually grows in a cycle, okay? Most of the hairs on a human's head are in the growth phase or anagen, and these hairs are constantly elongating, and that's why you see some people walking around with really long hair, okay? If it's not a wig, it's probably because they've had a few years of anagen, okay? The hair is growing and growing. And in humans, it can usually grow for up to 10 years at a time, okay? And so that's why you have really long hair, so Rapunzel and all that. In mice and cats and rabbits and everything, they have fur because their anagen's really short, okay? It's usually only about a few weeks long. They stop growing after a while and they end up with just fur. And most of them are not in the growth phase, they're in the resting phase. So in contrast to the human's head, where it's mostly in the growth phase, in mammals, these hairs are in their resting phase, okay? The growth phase is called anagen and the resting phase is called telogen, okay? Growth and rest. The growth phase is characterized by division and proliferation of all the stem cells in the hair follicle, whereas in the rest phase, all these stem cells are quiescent, okay? They're not doing anything. And in between the growth and the rest phase is something we call the phase of regression or catagen, okay? And here, after the stem cells all proliferate, okay, during anagen, they stop proliferating and they actually regress, okay? So underneath the skin, okay, the stem cells are actually dying, okay? These cells are actually dying and the hair is actually shrinking towards the surface. There's something wrong with this stupid brow today, it won't stay down. The hair shaft itself is still the same length, okay? The shaft that's already made just sits there, okay, at the end of anagen, throughout catagen, and during telogen. And after about, a few weeks in telogen, the rest phase, this hair is shed and a new cycle begins, okay? Then your new hair grows in, okay? And that's why every day you might see 50 to 100 hairs on the floor. These are your telogen hairs that are being shed. And the length that your hair can grow to is basically how long your anagen is. The length of the hair cycle is really different in everyone and we don't really know why. Okay, some people have anagens that are 10 years long and some people only have it for 2 to 3 years, and these are the people who can't grow their hairs beyond a certain length. Okay, some other conditions such as pregnancy can affect the hair cycle as well. Okay, during the stress of pregnancy, all the stress hormones and female hormones tend to shorten your anagen and bring forward telogen hairs. This is probably how your body is trying to conserve energy for the baby by stopping hair growth. Okay, the result of this is that at the end of the pregnancy, all your hairs on the head, okay, while now they're in anagen, at the end of pregnancy, most of them are in telogen or in the rest phase. And then 2 to 3 months after the baby is born, all these hairs are shed at once. And this is what we call telogen effluvium, okay? Telogen effluvium, they all just shed out. And this can be quite distressing to some people, okay? But usually, as I'll talk about later, most people just go back to normal after a few months, okay? But in some people, the hair cycle can be forever slightly changed. Highlight first with some white. So the coordination of the hair cycle is still pretty much a mystery, okay? This is actually what I did for my PhD, okay? So I was actually learning how the hair cycles. There are many cells in the hair follicle that might contribute to this, okay? There are a whole bunch of stem cells that live in your hair follicle. Some of them live here, here, and here. Okay, those up here in the bulge, these are the ones that replenish your hair after every single cycle. Okay, and they multiply and make these stem cells down here, okay, which proliferate and make proteins that actually form your hair shaft. Okay, and these guys, receive signals from these guys down here, the dermal papilla, okay, another group of very, very special stem cells to direct the growth of the hair shaft. If you took this dermal papilla or DP out and stuck it somewhere else underneath the skin, you can actually induce hair growth in some models. So these are the things that really excite me. Growing hairs in weird places. Which is probably why I'm so obsessed with wigs, right? I cannot stop buying wigs. I have so much unstyled wigs, as you can see from my Instagram. I rarely ever wear the same wig twice. I just love hair. So this is a bit of a, very pinky undertone. I'm just wondering whether my V21 will go with it. I think so. I think I need a bit more of a warmer contour today. So for that, I'll use my Woman Beauty in Honey Honey contour. Okay, other cells that might play a part in controlling the hair growth are things like your sebaceous glands. Okay, the muscle, there's a muscle that's attached to your hair called the erectile pili muscle. Some people think this might influence it. And, of course, some of my favorite cells, the immune cells. Okay, you've got a whole bunch of immune system cells that are circulating around the hair shaft. And I think that these actually help to control hair growth as well. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about the contour because they're going to be, my spit curls later. I'm going to draw on my spit curls like, being brown. Okay, it's going to be a bit of a black flapper smoky eye today to look like the Minnie Mouse character. So I'm going to go right in with my black creams first. Okay, wait, let's just do my blush first, right in the middle here. It's going to be a flapperish eye. I've done this kind of eye before. Big black circles around my eye. It's more like a panda. Okay, that's too big. I'm gonna have to redo that. I'll be right back. Whew, okay. Fix that. I had to redo everything. Okay, and I put my wig cap on and I took my shirt off so I didn't stain it. Okay, it's quite a nice shirt and I didn't want to get any colors on it. Alright, so I'm gonna go in and contour. Just lightly, don't have to do too much because I think the hair illusion will do most of it. So that's a hair cycle, alright? And when you have disorders of the hair cycle, that's when you have all the different diseases associated with hair, okay? And there are two ways you can have diseases of hair. One, you can have too much hair, okay? Or you can have too little hair, or your hair's falling out, okay? And if you have too much hair, there are several ways you can have too much hair. Okay, if you're a drag queen, you always want too much hair, right? Never enough. But if you're a normal person, if you have too much hair in places where, for example, people normally get hair, for example, a bearded lady in the circus, that's called hirsutism, okay? Because this is usually in response to abnormal hormones, okay? So usually people with hirsutism have a beard when they shouldn't have, or mustache. And usually you would see this in the bearded lady at the circus, okay? And you have too much hair in places where you don't expect to have hair, okay? It's called hypertrichosis. So hypertrichosis, and that in the circus would be, for example, your wolf boy, okay? When you have like hair growing from your face, on your cheeks, or somewhere else. Hypertrichosis can also be caused by certain drugs, okay? Some drugs like cyclosporin or even minoxidil, which people use for hair growth, can cause hypertrichosis if it trickles down the wrong place. Alright, let's get these face tapes on. Okay, and when you have too little hair, okay, or your hair's falling out, it's called alopecia. And alopecia is just the first name, okay? There are many different causes of alopecia. The most common cause, okay, is called androgenetic alopecia. You see people with this all the time. For example, Homer Simpson has androgenetic alopecia. So basically, the hormone-related balding that's very common in men, okay? In men, you get this M-shaped hairline and thinning up here. And in women, it's usually a diffuse thinning, okay? In women, it's also called androgenetic alopecia or female pattern hair loss. I'm going to draw my eyebrows, very comical eyebrows today, just like that. So that gives me the space to work. So just now when I went in with my black, I didn't really have a guide, so just went all over the place. So now it's going to be a bit more controlled. So for androgenetic alopecia, apparently 50% of men will have it by the age of 50. And by the age of 50, about 30 to 40% of women will have hair thinning. The good news is that we have treatments that actually work for this, okay? And things like minoxidil, which I mentioned earlier, you can just buy it anywhere, okay? In America, you can just walk into a Rite Aid and buy it. You can do that in Singapore too. I think it's cheaper in America. And of course, the other thing is a medication called propecia or finasteride. It blocks a hormonal enzyme, okay, and this helps to delay androgenetic alopecia, and sometimes it helps to regrow hair as well. There are many other treatments for androgenetic alopecia, okay, other than minoxidil and finasteride. Hair transplant is something that a lot of people do, okay, and other things like microneedling, platelet-rich plasma, these are things that have been tried for androgenetic alopecia. And, you know, in certain hands, they work quite well. Some people also try low-level light therapy or red light. Not sure whether how well this works. A couple of people swear by it, but most people don't see any effect. Still looks a bit pandery. Yeah, so the market for androgenetic alopecia is huge. A lot of people are willing to pay to regrow hair that they've lost. Okay, and there are a lot of people out there trying to trick people into paying for packages, hair spas, and stuff like that. Okay, which I think is really unethical. And some of the research that I'm doing is actually related to androgenetic alopecia. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll find a cure or something. Just going to blend this out in grey. Earlier, I mentioned this condition called telogen effluvium. Remember the stress-induced hair loss? So that's also actually pretty common, okay? Not only after pregnancy, but people tend to get it after any kind of stress. So people getting COVID-19 actually have reported hair loss, and this is usually due to telogen effluvium, okay? The disruption of the hair cycle. Crash diets, keto diets, hospitalizations, operations, all also can cause telogen effluvium. Even emotional stress, okay? Stress at work. All this have been reported to cause telogen effluvium. The good news is that it usually rights itself, so if you wait for a few months, your hair will go back to normal. Some people do have permanent changes in the hair cycle. So, instead of growing for many, many years, it stops growing. And this is sometimes why some older people feel like they can't grow their hair because, the cycle changes over time. There's an autoimmune form of hair loss called alopecia areata. And this is when your immune cells actually attack, okay, the hair follicle down here. You see all these immune cells down there? They're actually attacking the stem cells in that area. They tend to attack growing hair follicles, and these drop out in patches. Sometimes you need to inject steroids to, quiet down these immune cells. And sometimes it's really bad if it's involving the whole head. This is called alopecia universalis. You might need to take oral medication such as steroids or even something like cyclosporin or even this new JAK inhibitor called Xeljanz. For alopecia areata, there are these other treatments called topical immunotherapy, okay, whereby you can use certain ways to try to trick the immune system. It's a bit complicated to discuss that here, but that's something that we do as well as a weekly treatment, okay, with a chemical called DCP. Other forms of hair loss you can get like fungal infections, okay, some sort of fungal infections can lead to hair loss, and also folliculitis, okay, sometimes bacterial folliculitis or even can lead to patchy hair loss. And for these you might need antibiotics or antifungals. Some hair care practices, okay, in some people might cause hair loss. For example, traction alopecia, if you tie too tight braids or tight ponytails, you actually can get hair loss at the areas where you are pulling at the skin too much. Some cultures use very hot tools to treat their hair, okay, and this can sometimes lead to a scarring alopecia. So scarring alopecia is the hairs can't grow back. For example, in alopecia areata, you can actually get the hairs to grow back, but in scarring alopecia, the hairs are gone for good. And when you look at it under a microscope, it's completely smooth. You can't see the hair follicles like in the non-scarring alopecia. You can see little holes where the hairs emerge. Treatments for scarring alopecia is much, much more difficult. A lot of it is just moderating expectations. Highlight under the brow, a little bit of clown white light. Clean that up a bit. Cut the crease to give myself this really intense spotlight here. Peel these. Get that to sparkle as much as I can. So I'm going to use my diamond eyes shimmer to set that. And then going back in with my greys and blacks, just going to blend that in. So those are the different ways that you can have problems with your hair. Alright, I'm just gonna throw on a liner really quickly and I'll be right back. Alright, added my liner, drew on some little lashes and did a little bit of a spotlight. I'm just going to go in now and map out the rest of my little spit curls and everything. Okay, and then I'm going to color it in with face paint. And also the nose and the mouth. So there's going to be some teeth here. And my little mouse nose. I'm going to draw the highlight first. Okay, and now just filling all this in. Alright, for this I'm going to use my Maron Paradise paints, the black. So we know hair is very important in life, okay? People really get very upset if they lose their hair, and it's basically a signifier of health, right? I mean, long luscious locks always kind of signify that person is healthy, okay? It's a bit like a peacock's feather, okay? It doesn't really do very much, but it's just there to signify health and sometimes even social status, okay? Certain hairstyles are associated with very rich people. For example, in the Victorian times, they had this big updos. Because it takes so much time to do, that actually signifies to everyone that, you know, I'm rich, I have the means to do all this. And even these days, the way that people wear their hair can signify quite a lot. So not only social status, health status, but you know, there are a lot of hairstyles that are very cultural. And you know, this has been shown, okay, in Drag Race when Utica was quite apprehensive about wearing an afro. There are a whole bunch of hairstyles that are associated with certain cultures. For example, braids can be quite controversial as well, okay? So dreadlocks and everything are usually associated with African American people, Afro-Caribbean people, and people always look a little bit askance when a white person wears dreadlocks, which was quite popular in the 1990s. Braids, on the other hand, okay, there are many different types of braids. Box braids, white people might not be able to wear, but you know, Vikings had braids and even braided their beards, right? So it's very interesting that humans actually evolved to only have hairs left on the head. They're hairs still on our body, but they're really small, okay? And they're called vellus hairs, whereas these big ones are called terminal hairs. Okay, and once something becomes cultural, there's definitely going to be discrimination, right? So a lot of black people have been discriminated for their hairs. I had a friend who was in medical school, and she basically had to spend $200 every other week to straighten her hair, okay, because it was not considered professional for her to attend clinics and everything in her natural hair, okay? That's horrifying. A lot of black people learn from a very early age that the hair is not suitable for society, okay? And a lot of them spend a lot of money, a lot of time trying to straighten their hair, trying to make their hair shorter, getting weaves and everything. And there's a huge industry also. And this is one of the things when I mentioned earlier, right? Using very hot tools, sometimes it leads to scarring, alopecia, and scars in the hair. And this is called central centrifugal cicatricial alopecia. A lot of words, but this basically just means from hot tools, sometimes you can damage your scalp so much that your hair stops growing. Okay? And that's why recently, several states in America have passed this thing called the Crown Act, okay, which actually forbids people from being discriminated in the workplace due to their hair. Can you imagine that this still is a thing in 2020? Well, you probably can't imagine it's a thing, right? How racist and how backwards so many of these policies are. Very Josephine Baker. Alright, I'm going to use my white Silver Beauty to fill in the teeth and the highlight there before I go around with my other colours. And use my black lipstick to colour in this rest here. The negative space. Using my House Labs lipstick to fill in and overdraw the lips. Alright, so I'm just going to paint my neck, put on some finishing touches, and I'll be back with the finished look. Alright, and this is the finished look. Minnie Mouse with big hair ears. A couple of afros for my ears. So that's my video on hair. Okay, first of 3 videos. Alright, this is mainly the biology, the diseases of hair, and a little bit of the cultural stuff too. Don't forget to hit the post notifications button there and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the other 2 videos, okay? I've got a lot of very exciting hair related videos coming up. Alright, so if you like this video, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up as well, alright? And I'll see you next time. Bye! Disco Mouse. This is actually quite stable. Alright, don't forget to check out my other videos. I did a dermatology and drag series for eczema and also for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, okay, where they're an Evie Oddly tribute. Bye! Girl, you're so hot like summer.